Hello, MotoAmerica fans. It's time for another episode of Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you may even learn something from this unlikely pair and their special guest. The mic is yours, Paul and Sean.
Hey, everybody. I want to welcome you to our first ever social distancing podcast with Off Track with Carruthers and Bice. I'm Paul Carruthers, the communications manager, and I'm joined today by two gentlemen, Sean Bice, who joins me every week in our podcast, and he's sitting like 9 miles over that way. And then also our special guest today is Jake Lewis, who's 6 feet to my right. So welcome everybody to the podcast, and welcome, Jake. How are you?
Good. I'm excited to be here at MotoAmerica, first race of the year and first two-wheel action in a while. And I think we're the first motorsports since the coronavirus has happened.
Yeah, it's going to be cool. We're live. We're live on TV. Unfortunately, we can't have fans at this one, but there's plenty of live TV. I didn't know if I was going to have to go to like a Dairy Queen in Princeton, Kentucky to see you, or if I was going to see you at all this year.
Yeah, man, it's been exciting the past 2 weeks. Honestly, I was a little bit bummed out because I didn't think I was going to be in the pits at all. It didn't look like anything was going to be available for this season, and unfortunately was left without a ride this winter, and tried to piece everything together, but nothing was available. And then 2 weeks ago, I started, actually, Sean was the one who texted me and called me one day when I was getting ready to mow the lawn and was like, hey, what do you got going on for this year? And him and Steve Scheibe are really good friends, so kind of got in touch with Steve and made everything work.
Did you get 10%, Sean, or what?
Yeah, I need to get my commission from that. I mean, that's true. I guess I'm just happy to be a matchmaker as long as I made it happen. But I mean, yeah, it's funny how it ended up. I'd say probably early May, you didn't know, weren't sure what was going on. In the previous years, I remember we've talked to you, you signed your contract with last year with Team Hammer like in February. It was late. So I think you were kind of used to it taking some time, but then you got to the point where everything was very weird for you. So when this happened, I mean, were you still hopeful? Where were you at?
He was hosed.
Yeah, honestly, I thought I wasn't gonna have a ride for sure. Luckily I did the Daytona 200, or I didn't do the 200. It got canceled because of the virus. But I met a good organization with the N2 Track Days company, so I kind of had some stuff lined up to do the 600 race just for this round at MotoAmerica. And then this deal came available to do the Superbike, and kind of jumped on that because obviously my heart's on the 1,000, and I feel like I'd go better on the Superbike. So made everything happen with Steve literally within a matter of days, and then the announcement came out, and that was just a week ago pretty much.
So you were telling us that you were able to get on the bike earlier, Monday or something, you were on it. And I wondered, because the bike's obviously quite different than what you had last year. Does it feel the same in terms of the size? Feel smaller? What tell us the differences between the two bikes?
Yeah, well, first of all, I've never even rode another 1,000 besides the Suzuki, so I didn't know what to expect. And when you're jumping on a new bike, you want to go in there with an open mind, which I did. And as soon as I went out, I haven't rode a road race bike in a while, so it took me a little bit to get going. But honestly, I love the bike. I only got half a day on it, which isn't nearly enough. But the first impressions are good. I'm comfortable on it, and it has really good power, and electronics are really good on it. So looking forward to this weekend for sure.
How difficult will it be?
Honestly, I won't be able to know till probably tomorrow, because I did a track day with a lot of slower guys and had a lot of people to pass. But I think it's definitely going to be difficult because, everyone that's rode the BMW in the MotoAmerica has done decent, but not like at the very front. But, I've been going back to watch old videos of Eslick because I think he had the best success on the BMW out of anyone. And I would like to think and compare myself to Danny. Danny's one heck of a rider, but I feel like I'm just as fast or better than Danny. So hopefully I can be up there with the front guys. It'll just take time. I don't really know the crew that well, or my mechanics, my crew chief. I don't really know anybody and how anybody works. So tomorrow will pretty much be all new for everybody. So I'm excited about that. And having a teammate like Heron, I think that's the first guy obviously I want to beat. And I think it's going to be good for Steve and for the whole crew to have two of us push each other.
When you come in with no experience, is it just a matter of like for the first race, like just make it so you're comfortable on the thing and feel okay?
Yeah, I've kind of been like thinking of it two different ways. Obviously I have expectations and goals like I want to achieve, and there's guys that I don't want to lose to that I feel like I shouldn't lose to. So I'm hoping to be up towards the front, but like I said, there's obviously you don't want to go overboard the first weekend and the first day because there's a lot of new stuff and a lot of things you got to learn between the team, the bike, get myself back up to speed. But hopefully I'm in that top 5 range, and especially this is a good track for the BMW because it's really fast in a straight line.
When was the last time you had a teammate? It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm honestly excited about that because it's been since 2015 that I have had a teammate, and that was with Roger at Yosh. And 16, 17, 18, 19, I've been by myself. So I feel like it kind of helps the team, and then also myself, being able to compare data and kind of help one another, can push each other, because that's the first guy you want to beat, your teammate.
That's the one thing about that bike too, and about that team is that BMW has a new S1000RR Superbike now, but one of Steve Scheibe's philosophies is he's done so much development on that bike and had a number of riders on it, even though he hasn't had 2 riders at the same time on the team. So they've got quite a bit of data to work with. Have you started to get into that part of it yet, or will that come tomorrow when you get out on track and kind of compare some things?
Yeah, actually, even before I rode the bike, we were looking at a few things electronic wise, because you kind of need to learn the bike and how it works before you even go out. And then I was comparing myself to Danny and Jake as far as gearing and like traction control and all of that stuff on a super bike. And I feel like that kind of helps a little bit, but tomorrow we'll actually be able to compare mine and Josh's data from the same session and see our lap times, where he's picking up the throttle and everything pretty much.
What about the ergonomics on the bike? Do you, being how tall you are, do you have a different setup than other people do? I know like Tony Elias has, Elias, I should say, now that I know how to pronounce it properly, his handlebars are kind of a little more farther forward, give him a little bit more leverage because of his diminutive size, I guess you'd say. With your situation and how leggy you are, do you have to have the rear sets way far back, the handlebars? What's your setup like? Is it unusual compared to other people?
I would say so for sure, because I'm the tallest, pretty much the tallest one in the paddock at 6'3", and I was talking to Steve on the phone before I even came here, and I was like, the pegs all the way back and all the way down, just because that's the most comfortable position for my legs, so I'm not cramped up on the bike. And also the handlebars. I feel like a lot of us run the handlebars out just to give you more leverage for the bike, turning and everything. So that's pretty much the 2 main things. And on the BMW, actually, he has 2 different subframes where we could lower and raise the seat like 3 or 4 notches, which actually helped me quite a bit. And I was surprised how comfortable I felt on the bike the first half day I rode it.
So that leads me to a second question. You're saying your rear sets are far back, pretty far down. Does that affect the lean angle on the bike? Can you not lean the bike over as far as some other people can because of your size?
Somewhat, but like when I was with the M4 guys, we would always like try to shave the end of the pegs down, because when you're leaned over that far, and me being as big as I am, I would drag the pegs and even drag some of the stuff like on the engine. So there's just certain tracks you have to watch out, because some tracks have taller curbs than others that you would drag stuff on, but it's not a huge issue.
I want to go back to mowing your lawn, because I didn't know. I knew you had a big piece of property, but I didn't know you said it takes like 4 or 5 hours to mow your lawn, and that's you're using a driver, obviously, right? You're not pushing.
Yeah, for sure. Actually, I'm fortunate. I bought like almost 13 acres in a pole barn house and shop back at the towards end of last year, because I wanted to be out in the country, because the Haydens were kind of done riding, and no one really had a track that all of us Owensboro boys could really go ride out besides JD, and I didn't really want to drive back and forth to JD's all the time, and it's kind of nice to have your own place. So kind of buckle down and spend some money and get my own place. And that's what I was talking to Sean about, obviously too, when he texted me. He's like, hey, what are you up to? I'm like, getting ready to mow the lawn, because it's an all day deal. It takes me 5 hours to do everything, because the place is big, and I don't have a tractor right now, so I even mow around my track. So I was out on the mower for like 5 hours.
And you do have a track there.
Yeah, I have a track. It's actually it's pretty nice. I have a little piece of woods and then also a turn track. So there's 13 acres, like I said, all in total, but the track's on probably 4 acres or so. It's like a minute and 20-second lap time, which is pretty big. And luckily I have some good farm boys as friends, so they'll come over and till it up right now because I don't want to break down and buy a tractor yet.
So you also, I don't know if everyone knows, but you also suffered a pretty bad wrist injury at the end of, well, when was that?
It was the 1st of March, actually. It was 12 days, I think, before Daytona. I was going to do the 200 and then also the TT. And I was doing a woods race because I did the whole woods series, Mid-South Woods Series back at home this winter because it's just like super fun. You know, I did it when I was a kid and I was like, I didn't know if I was going to be road racing. So I was like, I want to try to keep being competitive and like enjoying myself on a dirt bike. So I did that. And then literally 12 days before Daytona, I was in third in the A class. And at that speed, you know, we're going really fast through the woods. And I was in third gear and got swapped out. You know, my rear tire got kicked on a root and was going was going to hit a tree head on. And I, you know, put my arm up to brace myself. And now I got me a nice scar from it. You know, I did that because I didn't want to knock myself out. And, you know, even when I like try to get up off the ground, I was a little bit, I was a little bit dizzy because I hit my head pretty good. But at first, I didn't even notice the impact on my wrist. I rode like another half a mile in the woods or so, you know, so like rough and everything. It took the adrenaline, it took a little bit to wear off. But then right away, I knew something wasn't right. And then went to the doctor the next day and saw the break and was in surgery on Tuesday and had to leave for Daytona. I think it was 10 days or so afterwards.
So COVID kind of helped a little bit as far as you being healthy.
Yeah, honestly, like COVID's probably helped me out as a racer more than anyone because I wouldn't probably be sitting here today or even have a ride for the season. And even Daytona, you know, I think I was probably honestly the only racer there that was probably happy that it ended up getting canceled. And I felt bad for the teams and everyone there because it cost a lot of money to do it. But for me, you know, the stress on my body, and then I wasn't at 100%, so it helped out a lot.
Well, it owes you anyways because you got hurt before and it cost you a ride. So, you know.
Yeah, that's what that's what me and
you get some karma back.
Yeah, even me and my mom and my girlfriend and my sister, we were saying the same thing. It's like maybe COVID kind of helped me catch a break. It's been a couple of years that I've haven't really been able to catch a good break. So maybe this kind of helped me and hopefully opened up an opportunity with Scheibe.
Does not having a ride scare you enough to like, oh, man, I gotta do this and do it right?
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, I was at the point, like I didn't want to get, like I obviously never want to give up racing because it's been my life since I was 4 years old. But this winter I was at a point where it's like, do I actually give up and get a real job or like try to commit to getting something? So I just wanted to stay ready in case an opportunity like this did come up because if an opportunity comes up and you're not ready, I mean, you obviously don't look good and you're not going to get a second chance at it. So fortunately, I had a few good years there where I was able to put a little bit of money back so I could get through the winter in case a deal did come up. Because if you get a full-time job, I mean, it's kind of impossible to do both, I feel like, and be competitive in Superbike.
And compared to racing motorcycles, the real jobs, I think, pretty much suck.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Yeah, Jake, let's go back and talk about where it all started for you. You know, the connection with Owensboro, certainly, it all started with Earl Hayden, right? And the fact that Earl raced against your grandfather in flat track, is that correct?
Yes, and actually Earl and my dad were really good friends as well because my dad and uncle and like our little family actually ran like the WKCRA, like they ran like a dirt track, like pretty much a dirt track championship, like just locally. But Earl would bring Nicky, Roger, and Tommy to the series, and my dad would let them ride the bikes that were too big for him at a younger age. So he just kind of let them ride and built that relationship to help make them better riders and stuff. So then from the time I was 5 years old, you know, Earl's been helping me out. And then I really, like, you know, he helped me out a lot, but then I really didn't form the connection with the brothers until I was probably 16 or 17. And then the year I was going after the championship, 600 championship, back when it was AMA, right when I graduated high school, I actually lived with Roger for a year and a half, 2 years probably. Because Earl's like, you need to get up to Owensboro to train with my boys, and kind of helped take me to the next level, really.
You got to tell us some stories about when you were living with Raj, because are you guys like the odd couple a little bit? I mean, Which one of you guys, one of you didn't do their laundry as much as they should have or something like that?
Well, it was me, yeah. But like, because I was
Yeah,
younger.
I was over there.
Yeah, it was me. I was younger. I didn't know how to do laundry. So like, I was like, hey, how do you do laundry, man? Because my mom had always done it for me. And even now to this day, I just throw everything in one load and put it on cold. So hopefully my stuff doesn't get stained.
I do the same thing.
It's the most simple thing to do.
But you learned a lot about kind of domestic living when you were living with Roger then.
Yeah, because, back then, I don't know if Roger had a girlfriend or not. And obviously I was single. So it was fun at the beginning because, we didn't really know each other and we could do anything against each other competitively where we wouldn't get really mad at each other. And then like the last year, when I was his teammate at Yosh, we were still like we race each other competitively on the weekends and come back to the house and still like, it's not like we were arguing, but literally everything we did was competitive. And there was some bickering going on there, and we kind of like hated losing to each other really bad. So it made it interesting for sure.
And it's funny that you knew Earl way better than any of the boys and the girls, of course, the sisters as well. So it took you a little while to get to know those guys. Do you still have a fairly close relationship with Earl, and do you talk to him much anymore?
Yeah, I still talk to him, not nearly as often as I need to or as I used to, because he's been having some health issues, for the past few years.
Mm-hmm.
And then with all the COVID going on, I haven't wanted to go over to their house because I didn't know how nervous and everything they were because of his health. But I still try to do the relationship with the Hayden family because, heck, I wouldn't be here today without their help. And they've done a lot for me. And like I said, the post, with Nikki's 3-year memorial the other day, it brings back memories from when I used to go stay out there because, I was luckily they let me come stay in California a few years back, and I didn't have to pay for my trip out there. And I look back at it now, like how thankful I am to go out there and train because they had an awesome setup, and I even cycled with Paul a couple times, and it was so fun, like being out there in California with those guys and pushing each other, riding, hanging out, and doing everything was awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot of the way you guys would cycle together. It really drove everybody forward with all their progress. Has COVID changed that? Has some of the changes within riders within that area affected things? It sounds like you're at your property now and kind of doing your own deal a little bit more than it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. That's kind of why I wanted to move back to the country. Is I grew up in the country. I had my own track there, and I feel like I wouldn't say better back then, but I was focusing more on myself and riding just by myself and like pushing myself. Whereas, there for a few years, it was just all of us, me, JD, Roger, Nick, Hayden, Nikki, and we would just push the heck out of each other. And sometimes it's better to ride by yourself to work on things you need to work on instead of just always racing each other and wanting to be the fastest one out of the day. But as far as, the racers in Owensboro go, McFadden's not racing right now, and neither is Hayden, and then JD's doing the flat track deal. Roger's done, and there's not a whole lot of us really competing anymore. So it's kind of just myself and my buddies out in the country riding and doing what I can to be ready in case the opportunity came up, and luckily it did.
Mm. Yeah, it's certainly changed. It's strange. You wonder is there another generation? You wonder about. Tommy's girls, has girls. I don't know if any of those younger kids have had an interest, or I know what Jenny and Catherine did race, right?
Yes,
back in the day.
Yes.
So there's some girls that might want to do that. What about it? Is it different?
You're putting a lot of pressure on him to have a son now,
Yeah.
Well, there is that.
And he's
what I'm
almost
over
a
here
young
thinking.
lad himself.
That's true.
Yeah, honestly, it doesn't really look like there's much coming down the pipeline, and unless I have a baby or something.
You got to work on it, Jake. It's up to you. It's absolutely up to you.
Yeah. But like right now, it doesn't look like it's going to happen because I don't see any kids, that I'm friends with or that the Haydens are friends with or anything that are coming up the pipeline. But there's always kids that hopefully will get a dirt bike at a young age and try to grow interest into it, because that's what we need to keep growing the sport and help build it to back to what it was.
Yeah.
When you were young, you raced mostly dirt track, right?
Yeah, I actually did dirt track when I started when I was 4 years old, and then I started road racing when I was 8. Earl actually kind of got me into road racing because back then the days were booming when Tommy and Roger and Nicky were all road racing, so I got into that.
Because now we get that mini cup, and I think that's a big step to get kids, riding road race bikes at an early age, and they're cool bikes.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's what honestly, that's what the sport needs is people that start at a young age and the parents supporting them, because you look nowadays and it's still going to be hard because the kids are staying inside playing video games and not getting outside. You don't see as many young kids as back when I was coming through that ride motorcycles, and that's kind of what we need is the parents to buy the kids the motorcycles from a young age and just kind of groom them all the way to MotoAmerica.
We'd seen on social media recently, it was, Paul, you probably saw this. It's really weird. It was Nick McFadden was laying a tile floor and Garrett Gerloff is helping him. Yeah. Garrett Gerloff from Houston, Texas. Did you see him when he was up in your area? I mean, what was going on with that?
Yeah, he actually stayed at my house.
Oh, he did? Okay.
Yeah, so Garrett, he pretty much called me like 2 or 3 days before he was coming to Kentucky. He's like, hey, man, you care if I crash at your place? And obviously I don't care. He's stayed at my house a couple of times and vice versa. So it's funny because he actually rode his moped from Houston, Texas to Owensboro, Kentucky.
What?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so actually, when I was on the phone with him, I was like, he was telling me he was going to do that. I was like, you're nuts. And I was like,
how far is it?
It's, 12 hours, 13 hours.
That's insane.
And I told him he was going to be freezing, and he's like, no, I'll be fine. I'm like, trust me. Like,
13 hours on a scooter.
Yeah, so he got there and he had on winter mitts and a couple pair of pants and jackets, and he was just shivering. He's like, dude, I can't warm up. I'm like, I told you it was going to be a miserable trip.
It's like that scene in Dumb and Dumber when they're on the mini bike and it was his nose running.
He was both.
Yeah, exactly. I want to talk about that though, because when I worked with Yamaha a few years ago, I remember one time I went into the Graves truck and JD and Garrett were in there when they were teammates. And Garrett had said something about Jake Lewis. And this is when you were in the class 2 in Super Sport. And I said, and I didn't know what was going on. And I thought there was something. So I waited for a minute and I said, was something with Jake? He goes, oh no, Jake's cool. No. So they were talking about you, but not in a bad way. And I expected it to be that SOB Jake Lewis. But you guys have raced against each other way back in the Weira era. You've raced with Garrett a long time, right? Or against Garrett.
Yeah, actually it was funny because my girlfriend was like asking me about this last week, and it just kind of bring back memories because back in the day, me and Garrett, all throughout USGPRU, I would beat him, and then he came in, he made such a big jump one winter because I used to not even have to worry about Garrett, and then one winter it was just me and him battling for the wins. And it's like, where did this kid come from? And then ever since then he's been on rails, but we raced really hard in 2011 for the Weira championships, and he won one championship, I won the next, and then even pros, 13, 14, when we were racing each other on 600s, we were on the same exact equipment. He was on the Graves bike and I was on a Means bike, and that's when JD was teammates with him, I think, and we were just going at it, and luckily I beat him in 14 when I got second in the points behind Gagne, and I think Garrett was 4th or something, and then I got lucky and caught a break with Yoshimura, and then unfortunately I got hurt. So it's crazy to look back and think, like, what if I didn't get hurt, or what if I would have been luckily, hopefully I would have still been with the Yosh team and been battling with him in front of the Superbike races. But it's awesome to see his success because, it's just like, I know how hard his family and my family worked throughout our amateur days. But it's just like, for me, it still kind of eats me up because I still wish I had the opportunity to be on the factory Superbike team when he was on the factory Superbike team, because we're the same age. We came through at the same time, and to be on the same bike as him and to compare myself would have been sweet.
Well, there are a couple things I always remember with that. And it was, I think at this track, you guys, you or Garrett, the bike sprung a leak. And you guys crashed. You crashed pretty bad. I think you both did.
It was actually him. It was coming through the left-hander before the last corner. That was in 2014 when we were battling for the 600 points. They had a problem that year. The radiator hoses kept popping off.
Yeah.
So his radiator hose popped off, and it high-sided him to the moon, and then myself as well. It high-sided me pretty hard, and I mean, I knew right away he was knocked out because obviously, you know, when someone's knocked out as a racer. So I went over there to check on him, and I was like, just stay down, man, as the ambulance is coming to get you. And then I ran over there to pick up my bike, and my bike was literally destroyed. But somehow I rode it back to the pits because, like, the first thing on a racer's mind is, like, I got to get back in the race because the points were tight back then. And I rode it back to the pits, and all the Yamaha crew was helping fix my bike and all the guys from Amin. So, like, it was a team effort to get me back out there, and luckily got a couple points that day that helped towards the championship.
So give us some insight into this in a racer's mind. When that happens, were you upset? It wasn't Garrett's fault, but it was Garrett's bike. Were you upset about it, that it happened, or is it a racing thing?
No, that was just a racing thing. Honestly, I felt bad. I mean, at first, you know, I felt bad for him because I see him over here and knocked out, and it's like nothing in Garrett's control that he could have done.
Right.
Because I thought, you know, he had an oil leak or something, because it was weird going into that left-hander. You know, I had some stuff coming on my face shield, and I was like, oh, this isn't good. And then I saw him get flicked off, and I was like, thought I was good. And then all of a sudden the rear flicked on my bike and pitched me off pretty hard too. So it's nothing you can be mad about in that situation.
It was a crazy moment. The other thing, and this is a little bit more of a happy thing. So my failing memory, but let's see if I got it right. It was Indy, and was it USGPRU? It was Garrett, you, and Nick McFadden on the podium. Am I right?
Yeah.
Tell us about that weekend.
That's not a good memory for me because Garrett kicked my ass that weekend.
Okay.
No, but I think I was second and third, and maybe McFadden even beat me one of the races. But Garrett just completely checked out, you know, and it was a fun weekend because, you know, we were there with the GP guys, and USGPR was huge back then, and the Milwaukees were cool, but. Like Garrett's crew and everyone there that weekend had everything dialed in, and he just completely smoked me.
Okay. Well, I brought up a bad memory. But at any rate, you were all on the podium together anyway. So, Jake, one of the things that the fans might not know about this ride that you got is you signed essentially on to race this first round with Scheibe Racing in Superbike on a BMW S1000RR, and the second round as well. So Scheibe Racing is based kind of in this area. This is their home track. The bike is suited to this track because it's a high horsepower track, and that bike's known for its speed. But beyond that, you don't know what's going on. So it's an unknown to you. Do you feel extra pressure that you feel like, oh, I got to really perform? And does it make you nervous?
Yes and no, honestly, because I feel like if you put too much pressure on yourself, that's when you kind of struggle. Like, it's just going to be fun for me to be back out on the bike, and obviously I want to perform. You know, I'm a racer and I want to run up front, but I feel like the bike and team should be good around this track, and hopefully, you know, I can do good enough these first two rounds for Steve to want to keep going. And it's going to take sponsorship, and I think that's what his goal is, to try to put myself up front to get, you know, people on TV and the sponsors to see that, hey, if we have two BMWs up front with myself and Heron, it would make people want to kind of keep going on throughout the year. So that's my plan, is just to try to run up front and take it day by day, honestly.
Yeah, and I mean, for people that may not know, Steve's background is he ran the racing program for Harley-Davidson's VR 1000 Superbike program back in the 90s, and has worked with a who's who of riders. So this track in this area is very important to him. And speaking of which, even though there aren't spectators here, we've done some amazing things with TV for this particular round. So, you know, Paul, let's talk about that a little bit with the TV.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of bittersweet because we don't get to have fans here. But what is also good is in, you know, 3 weeks or whatever, we get to come back to this great place with fans. And the other bonus to the whole thing is that our TV package is so good, nobody's going to miss out on it. You know, I can't imagine it not being our biggest TV audience that we've ever had, just because of the fact that the fans can't come here, and also the fact that people are just so starved for live sporting events. And we're going to be one of the first. I think we're actually the very first motorcycle road race in the world to get started again since COVID-19. So I think it's a big deal for us, and I think, you know, it's good. We have Fox Sports 2 on Saturday live with Superbike. We have Fox Sports 1 live on Sunday. We're going to be we just signed a deal with Eurosport, so people in Europe are going to be able to watch the races. And we also have our MotoAmerica Live Plus, which allows anybody in the world to watch it, much like last year, with a subscription. So I'm pretty pumped. I mean, it's going to have an odd feeling, I think, being at a racetrack without fans. It kind of feels like a really big, important test, But in a way, I think that's going to change when it's actually green flags and lights and checkered flags and freaking racing, because the racing here is always awesome. So I think once it gets actually started, I think we'll tend to forget about the other part of it and just enjoy it for what it is, because the best part is motorcycle racing, and that's what we're going to get to enjoy here. So it's going to be cool. Yeah, and Jake, I mean, for you to get these these rides at Road America with Scheibe Racing and to have this big TV package, you must be pretty excited about the fact that you're going to be seen kind of virtually all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's really exciting. A couple of my buddies have already texted me asking how they can watch, and I'm like, you can watch on Fox Sports 2 and Fox Sports 1 live. I mean, because heck, you can see that at any bar, any household, and it's a huge deal for MotoAmerica, and to be the first motorsports back since the COVID-19 is huge, and it brings me some excitement, and hopefully I'm up front.
When you're at a track, whether it's Road America or any other track, do you have an awareness or a sense of the fans while you're on the track racing, or does that all go away? You put your visor down and it's all about the competition?
I mean, I think if you're looking at the fans, you're not going to be running up in the front. I mean, obviously we look at them, maybe the first sighting lap and the cool down lap, but during a race, I mean, you don't focus on anything else besides the track and what's in front of you, because going 190 miles per hour, it's kind of hard to be daydreaming and looking at the fans.
Picking daisies on the sideline. Right. Well, thanks for being on with us. I mean, it's great that you got this ride, and you're a great personality and very popular with the fans, and it's good to have you back in our series. And I mean, I'm glad that Steve, for the good of MotoAmerica and road racing, has you part of this series again too. So, thanks for coming back, and thanks for being on the podcast with Paul and I. Yeah. I think we're going to wrap it up here for the final this episode 83, I believe it is. And thanks for joining us, fans. And please tune in to MotoAmerica Live Plus, subscribe, watch Fox Sports 2, Fox Sports 1, and MAV TV for our coverage this weekend. And also be sure to tune into MotoAmerica Live Timing to check on lap times and everything too. Got you covered in every which way that you can find out about our racing without actually being here. So thanks so much.